In the land of Rivka, the nation is divided by something known as the Shadow Fold. It's a huge wall of darkness filled with Volkra, winged monsters that feed on humans. The fold was created hundreds of years ago by the Black Heretic, a man who could summon shadows. This divide has led to years of war with Firda, the nation to the north, and Shu Han, the nation to the south. Rivkan troops come in two kinds, the normal soldiers and the Grisha, who practice magic and are hated because of the sins of the heretic. A legend says that one day, a Grisha capable of summoning pure light will destroy the Shadow Fold and reunite the country again. In East Rivka, mapmaker Alina is discriminated against because her mother was from Shu Han. She grew up in an orphanage because the fold ate her parents, but she still wished to cross the fold to find a place where nobody would care about how she looks. Nowadays Alina travels with the First Army as a cartographer and she's excited to see the fold up close. Meanwhile in Kribirsk, Alina's childhood friend Mal is also with the army as a tracker, but he's trying to make some extra money by boxing. Thanks to his training, he defeats his opponent easily with just a few quick moves. Suddenly a Grisha shows up and starts manipulating the air as he taunts Mal to fight him, but the organizers immediately cancel everything because it would be an unfair match. Afterward, Mal reunites with Alina, whose unit has come to Kribirsk to join the next mission through the mountains. However, they learn they'll soon be separated again because Mal has been assigned to go on a special mission into the fold. Later in the evening, the cook refuses to feed Alina because she is half Shu. Mal notices this and sneaks into a Grisha's tent, knowing magic users get better food. As he's stealing some fresh fruit, he's discovered by Zoya, a Grisha who tries to convince him to spend the night with her. However, Mal chooses to take the fruits to Alina. The next morning, Alina decides she wants to go with Mal and makes a plan. She secretly burns the maps of their destination and makes it look like a fallen lamp. Now her whole unit is assigned to go on the trip as well. Soon the ship enters the fold and is surrounded by deep darkness. They keep their lights out except for a single blue lantern to avoid getting monsters' attention, and a Grisha controls the wind to keep them moving. They can hear the Volkra roaring in the darkness, and bursts of lightning sometimes show them the debris left by others who failed the journey. Suddenly the blue lantern goes out and a soldier lights a normal fire lantern, causing a Volkra to land behind him and drag him away with its claws. The lantern falls and starts a fire on the deck, which causes more Volkra to fly over and capture crew members left and right. The soldiers try to open fire to keep them at bay and one of the monsters drops a body on the deck, disturbing Alina. A Grisha tries to use fire magic to fight, but the Volkra isn't affected and immediately kills her. Mapmaker Alexei is so scared that he jumps off the ship and runs away. Suddenly a Volkra captures Mal, so he uses a dagger to hurt the creature's leg. Alina sees this and rushes to grab a weapon, shooting the Volkra and making it drop Mal before it flies away. As Alina runs to Mal's side, a Volkra captures her from behind. Alina is holding onto Mal's hand, not wanting to let go, when suddenly her entire body erupts in light. In West Rivka, the soldiers assume the ship was lost when suddenly Alexei runs out of the fold and faints. Meanwhile in Kerch, a man is trying to pay Jesper his bet with some coins, but he can tell they're fake and proves it by shooting them. While the man is dragged away from the gambling house, the boss Kaz reminds Jesper to keep it quiet. Seconds later, Kaz is visited by Inich, who brings news of a job that will pay very well. A wealthy merchant is looking for a team to cross the fold into East Rivka and retrieve something. Inich had tried following him to find out what his objective is, but the merchant had put up extra security. Some rivals also want this contract, so Kaz must find a way to be chosen. The next day, Kaz takes Jesper and Inich around the city to gather information and learns that the merchant is looking for a heartrender, a Grisha who can force people to tell the truth. In the meantime, Kaz's rival Pekka and his men appear at the office of a club manager and immediately hit him to capture him. Pekka knows that the club has a street worker with heartrender powers and threatens him to make him lend the girl to him. The manager refuses and gets killed, but when Pekka's henchmen look for the heartrender, he discovers she's already gone. It turns out Kaz has already hired the heartrender. They go to the merchant's house and pay the security guard with fake money. By the time he realizes he was scammed, they're already inside. After some negotiation, the merchant Dresden introduces them to Alexei, who told everyone a bright light destroyed all the Volkra. This is hard to believe, so Dresden wants the real story. Using Heartrender's power, they make Alexei confess that he saw the legendary sun summoner clean the area of Volkra. After Alexei tells them Alina's name, Dresden shoots him and then gives Kaz's group the mission. They have until sunrise to figure out a way to cross the fold and return safely with Alina. Meanwhile in East Rivka, the rest of the ship comes with Alina and Mal unconscious on the deck and a few survivors. A flashback reveals that when a Grisha went to their orphanage to test the kids for magic, Mal was injured and couldn't participate. Alina wasn't interested in going to Grisha school if it meant leaving Mal behind, so she hid with him to avoid the test. In the present, Mal is taken to a medic while Alina's checked on by a healer, who uses her healing magic before taking her to see General Kirigan. After hearing the story from the other survivors, Kirigan puts her through the test by cutting her arm. Everyone watches in shock as a beam of blinding light comes out of her, confirming she's the sun summoner. It's immediately decided that Alina will be sent to the little palace for training, and she isn't allowed to say goodbye to Mal before she's pushed into a carriage. During the trip, the carriage stops when it finds the road blocked. Two soldiers go to investigate, only to suddenly be shot dead. At that moment, a bunch of witch hunters from the north show up and surround the carriage as they open fire. The Grisha immediately use their powers to defend themselves, but the fire and air users quickly get shot down. There are two Grisha that manage to kill a few enemies by twisting them from inside, but soon they discover there's a sharpshooter nearby and they run to hide, only to be hit by a smoke bomb. Meanwhile Alina is still hiding in the carriage, which also gets hit by a smoke bomb. An enemy suddenly opens the door and drags her out, hitting her when she tries to defend herself. When he's about to kill her, Kirigan shows up and uses shadow magic to kill him. All the other attackers immediately run away, scared of Kirigan. Afterward, Alina rides with Kirigan and eventually arrives at Little Palace, the safest building in the country. Once Alina is alone in her new room, she allows herself to have a breakdown, and she grabs a letter opener to keep under her pillow. In Kerch, Kaz is visited by Pekka and his men, who immediately beat him up. Pekka tells Kaz to abandon the mission or he'll kill him as he did with the manager, then he leaves. A few hours later, he's back at the base all safe and sound. Sometime later, Alina goes back to Baghra to be properly trained. Baghra is very strict and keeps hitting her as she fails, assigning her lots of reading, and correcting her sleeping habits. As days pass, Alina's magic starts improving and she manages to summon a small ball of light. One afternoon, Baghra gives Alina some tea that makes her revisit an old memory. On the day of the Grisha test at the orphanage, she and Mal were caught when they tried to hide and brought to do the test anyway. Mal couldn't get tested because he was injured, so Alina cheated by getting an injury in secret, causing the test to come up negative. Baghra thinks it's just more evidence of Alina holding herself back for the sake of others. Later that night, Alina goes for a walk around the little palace and finds Kirigan still worrying over his war plans. He admits that he feels hopeless and alone as the shadows get worse around him, so Alina grabs his hand, bringing light around them. It looks like they might kiss, but Alina leaves before anything happens. The next day, Alina checks with the mailman but there are still no letters from Mal. Assuming he's forgotten about her, she finally embraces her destiny and runs to Baghra to show her a big ball of light. When she returns to her room, she asks Genya to get rid of her hand scar. In Eastrivka, Kaz's group learns that the Royal Archives has a copy of the Little Palace blueprints, so the trio plans a heist while the conductor is tasked with finding a contact that can help them. Kaz shows up at the Royal Archives pretending to be a sculptor who needs the dimensions of the Little Palace for a commission he has to do for the king. When the clerk goes to check the blueprints, Kaz drops a piece of phosphorus that follows the man and creates a secret trail. In the evening, Jesper pretends to be a guard to turn off the lights in the archives, allowing Inaj to sneak inside. She follows the glow-in-the-dark phosphorus and finds the blueprints, which she makes a copy of. Before she can leave, the lights are turned back on and a guard appears, so she carefully sneaks around to avoid being seen. Then the guard closes the door behind him, but thankfully Jesper shoots the lever when the main clock strikes 2 so the shot isn't heard. Inaj gets to escape and reunites with Kaz, who is also dressed as a guard. Afterward they meet with the conductor, who has befriended a group of circus performers that will be part of the winter fete at the palace. The conductor caused an accident to make their aerial artist fall and get hurt, then he introduced himself as a manager with the perfect replacement. Inaj impresses everyone with her athletic skills and she's accepted as the new aerial artist, then Jesper shows off his shooting skills by firing off a card from Inaj's mouth while looking in the mirror. He's accepted into the circus as a new act, so now Kaz will have to find his own way in. The next day, the circus is accepted into the royal grounds. Kaz dresses as a guard and snoops around the palace, discovering there's a secret door leading to a fitting room for the Grisha. Meanwhile Alina gets ready for her big debut. A fabricator Grisha called David brings her special gloves made at Kirigan's request which will amplify her powers. Alina tests them and manages to make 2 separate beams of light, but then she gives them back and proves she can already do that by herself. Then Alina notices all the artists outside so she convinces Genya to let her have one last day to enjoy herself before joining the war. Together with a guard, the girls go to see the circus do their tricks, and Jesper overhears them talking. Now he knows the face of their target. Later, Alina chats with Kirigan, telling him she isn't nervous about her debut because she finally feels like she belongs. Then she kisses him. When the party finally begins, Kaz pretends to be a guard again and gets a stain on his uniform on purpose to get replacements, which he gives to Inaj and the conductor so they can sneak around as well. A fire Grisha entertains the public with some flames, but soon Alina takes over the stage. After Kirigan fills the room with darkness, she summons 2 balls of light and does some tricks before lighting up the room. Everyone is impressed and bows to her as they call her a saint, including Inaj. Meanwhile the conductor uses a special stone to open the door to the fitting room and hides in it. When Alina arrives, instead of kidnapping her for Kaz, he slits her throat on behalf of the rebellion. At that moment Genya comes in and starts fighting him, overpowering him with a few quick moves. However the conductor shoots her and runs away, only to be captured by soldiers in the hallway. Then Genya rushes to check on the body, who turns out to be another girl with an illusion to make her look like Alina. Kaz had already known this because he saw the 2 dresses in the fitting room, that's why he sent the conductor after the fake Alina, suspecting he would betray them for his cause. At the same time, Mal arrives to give Kirigan the news about the stag, but he refuses to mark the exact location on the map until he sees Alina. While Kirigan goes to look for her, Mal is approached by a guard working for Baghra, who takes him into a cave and tries to kill him, so a fight ensues. After some struggle, the soldier pushes Mal further into the cave and he discovers the body of the rider who brought him here. The soldier starts throwing knives at Mal and hurts his stomach before hitting him with a chair, then Mal starts fighting back with a fire poker. The soldier reveals she has magic and bends the poker to fight back, but after a few moves, Mal manages to stab her and knock her out. Back to Kirigan, he brings Alina to his quarters but doesn't tell him about Mal. They start kissing and things heat up, but they're interrupted when a guard comes to inform Kirigan of the attack. As soon as he's gone, a hidden doorway opens and Baghra walks in. She pulls Alina into a secret tunnel, saying she needs to leave the palace before she becomes a slave. Bagra explains that Kirigan doesn't want to eliminate the fold, he wants to expand it and use it as a weapon. Kirigan isn't just any Grisha, he's the original black heretic who created the fold and transformed humans into the Volcra. Alina refuses to believe it until Bagra begins controlling the shadows, revealing she's Kirigan's mother. Furious, Alina wants to fight against Kirigan, but Bagra points out she isn't strong enough yet and sends her to hide in the food storage where she'll be guarded by some Grisha that are loyal to her. Alina pretends to follow her instructions but leaves the palace because she's tired of being someone's puppet. She hides inside a carriage and is seen by Jesper, who stole that carriage by getting dirty with the stable boy. Nearby, Kirigan discovers that Alina is gone and goes looking for Mal, but Bagra tells him he's dead, thinking her soldier killed him. However, Mal is actually behind a tree, hearing their conversation. Afterward, Kirigan and Zoya interrogate the conductor. He tries to blame it all on Kaz, but Kirigan knows that the conductor has ties to the rebellion and kills him with shadows. Meanwhile, Inaj and Kaz are noticed by a fire Grisha at the party, so they split and try to lose him. The Grisha follows them into a chapel and Kaz uses the chance to surprise him from behind, quickly breaking his hand to stop him from doing magic. However, this Grisha only needs one hand, but before he can throw a fireball, Inaj kills him by throwing a dagger at his head. More guards are coming, so the duo rushes outside to reunite with Jesper, who tells them he's got the Sun Summoner as they leave in the carriage. Moments later, Alina uses her magic to open the trunk of the carriage and finds the trio waiting for her. They offer her safe passage through the fold to West Rivka, but Alina doesn't trust them and uses her powers to startle them. Inaj isn't too affected, but she still lets Alina go. As she walks around town, Alina bumps into two soldiers who recognize her as Shu and start harassing her, so she punches one and blinds the other with her magic before running away. After going through a few narrow alleys, she makes it to the woods, where she finally reunites with Mal. They keep running until they're far enough from the soldiers and finally understand they haven't been receiving each other's letters. Mal also tells her about the stag, and Alina realizes Kirigan stole the drawing from her journal, confirming Bagra's story. After sharing a hug, they keep moving and find shelter for the night. Since the cold is awful, Alina creates a ball of light to keep them warm. The next morning, as Alina tends to Mal's wound, Alina decides that she wants to go after the stag and amplify her power so that she can defeat Kirigan. In town, Kirigan and his men find the stolen carriage, but when they open it, a small explosive goes off. This alerts Kaz's group that they've been found, so they split up to divide the Grisha army. The sister of the dead fire Grisha recognizes Inaj's knife and immediately begins shooting flames for revenge, only to accidentally hurt civilians instead. Jesper hides in a laundry shop but he's followed by a heartrender, who can hear his heartbeat. Still hiding, Jesper starts shooting the Grisha, always making the bullets hit the guy in the same exact spot. Eventually his bulletproof clothing wears off and the bullet bruises the Grisha, so Jesper uses the chance to knock him out. On the street, Inaj attacks the fire Grisha with her blades and has to move fast to dodge the flames shot at her. Inaj manages to hide and surprises the Grisha with her blade, stabbing her in a non-lethal spot because she doesn't want to kill again. However, when the Grisha swears to kill every person Inaj loves, she has no choice but to end her. Nearby, Zoya goes after Kaz, moving the crowd with her wind powers only to discover that Kaz gave his clothes to another guy. However, Kaz is still cornered by Kirigan, who begins filling the alley with shadows. Kaz tells him that Alina fled by her own choice and throws a small explosive as a misdirection, managing to escape. Once Kaz's team manages to regroup, they steal Kirigan's carriage by quickly knocking out the soldier inside. Kirigan doesn't want to go after them because Alina is his priority, so David points out that Genya gave Alina a ring made of a rare metal not native to Rivka. If David gets within 1 mile of her, he'll be able to sense it, so they use this skill to start tracking her. They also hear from the soldiers defeated by Alina that a tracker asked for her, which makes Kirigan realize she'll be going after the stag. Meanwhile, the ship carrying Nina has been destroyed by a storm. She swims to hold onto some debris and finds an unconscious Matthias, the soldier that captured her. He's freezing to death, so Nina uses her heartrender powers to speed up his heart rate and get his blood flowing. When he wakes up, he falls into the water as he calls Nina an evil witch, but he realizes they need to cooperate to survive and climbs back on the debris. Nina will keep his heart pumping while he swims them to safety. Eventually they reach the shore and go looking for shelter in the mountains. They find an empty cabin and Nina takes off her wet clothes to cover her body with furs, but Matthias refuses to do the same because he sees it as being vulnerable for a witch. Nina changes his mind by pointing out he'll die frozen, and he joins her in bed so they can share body heat. The next morning, they start traveling through the mountains and Nina accidentally falls through thin ice, but Matthias surprises her by catching her just in time and saving her. Then a flashback shows a younger Kirigan hundreds of years ago riding through the woods until he arrives at a cabin to reunite with healer Luda. They begin to pack up to go on the run, but soon the cabin is surrounded by soldiers who want to arrest them for training witches in secret. Kirigan pretends to surrender and the soldiers shoot him with arrows while Luda heals him from inside. He's hoping to convince them that he's a god, but a soldier searches the house and finds Luda, who immediately gets stabbed. Furious, Kirigan kills all the men with his shadow magic, then he carries Luda on a horse until he finds the Grisha sanctuary, which is the building that eventually became the palace. Unfortunately, it's too late for a healer to save Luda. Then Kirigan tries to warn Bagra that the king is coming after the Grisha to kill them all, and Bagra blames him for it, pointing out he showed too much of his power and scared the king. She wants them to escape together, but Kirigan refuses and wants to form his own Grisha army following the notes left by his grandfather the Bonesmith. Ignoring his mother's warnings about the dangers of such magic, Kirigan finds the Bonesmith's journal and recites a spell that turns his veins black and makes him more powerful. At that moment a bunch of soldiers surround the sanctuary, so Kirigan goes out and shocks them with his improved shadow magic. As he kills them, he loses control and expels a bunch of black smoke which creates the fold, transforming all the people there into Volcra. The only survivor is Bagra, so Kirigan picks her up and runs away. In the present, Alina and Mal finally find the stag in the forest. Alina can't bring herself to kill it, so instead she approaches the creature and touches its nose, causing her to glow. Suddenly the stag gets shot and Alina is knocked down as Kirigan's troops show up. Mal manages to shoot a soldier down, but before he can do more, Zoya uses her wind magic to stop him. The soldier recovers and reveals to be a Heartrender, who shoots Mal and starts torturing him with magic. Alina cuts in and knocks everyone down with her magic before rushing to Mal's side. At that moment Kirigan arrives and tries to use his magic to finish the stag, so Alina runs to create a shield around the creature and Mal. However, Kirigan points out that Mal will die soon, so he promises that he'll have his healer save Mal if she gives him the stag. Alina brings down the shield and Kirigan immediately murders the stag while the soldiers capture Alina. Mal is healed but captured as well. Later at the palace, Alina is shackled and unable to perform magic. David places the antlers on her chest and a piece of antler bone on Kirigan's hand, then he performs a ritual linking the two. The antler pieces sink into their skin, bonding them. Now when Kirigan touches Alina, he's able to access her power. The next day, Alina is taken back to Krabirsk. Genya visits her and informs her that the king has fallen ill, so the Operat is ruling in his stead. She also reveals she's been promoted to general, and Alina realizes she's always been spying for Kirigan. It was she who poisoned the king. Meanwhile Kaz's group thinks of using the train to return home, however they find a bunch of soldiers blowing it up. They have no other choice but to infiltrate a skiff to be able to cross the fold. They knock out a few rich people on the street and steal their fancy clothing with their tickets. In the evening, Mal finds Jesper's goat and the bullet he left on her collar. He uses the bullet to break his shackles and manages to escape. The next morning, Kaz's group is surprised to discover that they'll ride the same skiff as Kirigan and Alina. Once everyone is aboard, Kirigan keeps her chained to the deck, hiding it with her dress. Mala manages to sneak aboard too and hides in the hull right before the skiff enters the fold. In the snowy mountains, Matthias and Nina finally find a town and stay in a hotel, where they fantasize about running away together. They go to a pub to grab a bite, but Matthias suddenly faints on the table. It turns out a Heartrender sent by Kirigan has found them and is using his powers to keep Matthias down. Knowing she can't beat him, Nina yells that Matthias is a slaver and everyone in the pub takes out their weapons because they want the bounty. A few Grisha come out to help their commander, but they can't fight these many civilians outside the borders without making it a war crime, so they let Nina and Matthias go. In the fold, Kirigan uses Alina's power to create a tunnel of light for the skiff to go through. Kaz's group goes below deck to hide because Kaz is sure Kirigan is planning something evil. At that moment Inaj finds Mal and brings him out, but they quickly realize they want the same thing and team up. When the skiff is about to reach West Rivkin, Kirigan orders it to stop and sends his shadows toward the city, making them stronger with Alina's power. She tries to stop the shadows with her light, but Kirigan stops her and lets the darkness destroy it all. Zoya feels betrayed because she has family there and thought Kirigan would truly destroy the fold. Kirigan announces to the diplomats that he controls the fold now, so no country will threaten Rivka again. Suddenly Mal comes out and shoots a few soldiers, but before he can reach Kirigan, a Heartrender knocks him down. Alina wants to help him, but if she gets distracted the tunnel will fall, and she must keep it up to protect everyone in the skiff. The diplomats try to stand up to Kirigan, telling him that he isn't a savior but a threat, so he makes the Heartrender kill them too. Meanwhile Zoya tries to summon the wind to push the skiff toward the city. A soldier tries to stop her, but Inaj appears to fight him. She manages to defend herself pretty well and lands a few hits, but eventually the soldier reveals to be a Heartrender too and uses his powers to stop her. Suddenly Zoya blows him away, letting a Valkyra take him while she gets the skiff moving again. At that moment Kaz and Jesper appear on deck and shoot down the Heartrender. Kirigan begins reflecting the bullets with his shadows, and Inaj uses the distraction to land a dagger in Kirigan's torso. However, he tears it out and heals himself with the black veins. Then Kirigan brings the shadows back onto the skiff and a Valkyra knocks Zoya down. Inaj tries to throw knives at the monsters and loses them all, but when a Valkyra is about to kill her, Kaz hits it with his cane. As Alina panics over Mal, she suddenly has a vision of the stag, who motions to the knife Kirigan dropped. After the vision ends, Kirigan reaches out to her, so Alina grabs the knife and stabs him through the hand, removing the fragment of the antlers. Now she has her power back and uses it to send all the shadows and Valkyra away. She explains the stag chose her and absorbs the rest of the antlers into her body. With Kirigan distracted, Mal pushes him off the skiff, falling as well. While they start fighting hand to hand, the Heartrender attacks Alina, causing her to drop the light. Jesper shows up and opens fire, quickly recovering from the Heartrender's attack to shoot him and kill him for good. Mal and Kirigan continue to fight, and both of them are hurt so their moves are quite clumsy. After lots of struggle, Kirigan tries to use his magic, but he's too weak to control the shadows. Mal distracts him with a few shots until a Valkyra appears from behind and captures Kirigan. As the Valkyra begins surrounding the skiff, Mal goes back and wakes Alina up. She immediately reactivates her magic and allows them to safely arrive at West Rivka. Moments later, the group rests by a fire and discusses what to do. Jesper and Inaj don't want to kidnap Alina anymore but Kaz isn't convinced, so Alina buys his silence with her jewels. Zoya wants to find her family, but before leaving the group she's grateful for what Alina did. Then the group goes to the nearest town where they get aboard a ship to Ketterdam. In this very same ship, Matthias is chained up in a cell. Nina tries to tell him that this was the only way to save him, but he doesn't believe her and attacks her, thinking she's betrayed him. Nina promises she'll solve this before she returns to the deck, where she overhears Kaz saying they'll need a heartrender for his next plan. Mal and Alina agree that they'll run for a little while, but once she's strong enough she'll come back to destroy the fold. Speaking of the fold, Kirigan comes out severely hurt but alive. He mumbles the word follow and a bunch of creatures come out as well. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.